Hi, welcome to Becoming Astrology. I'm your host and astrologer, Heather Reeves. Today we are going to be covering the astrology for the week of April 26th to May 2nd, 2026. This video is all about me making progress over perfection as I'm recommitting to doing these weekly updates on the YouTube channel. So stick with me. This is not going to be the best week or the most professional week, but it will get you the updates that you need so that you can be successful with the week and the transits ahead. Okay, so let's jump right in. I'm actually going to back up to, let's see here, Saturday the 25th, because we had a really big transit happen. Uranus, the god of chaos and change and rebellion, entered Gemini, the sign of the twins, the tricksters of the zodiac and our intelligent communicators who are ruled by Mercury. So welcome to a new 8-year cycle. We had a sneak peek of what this was going to be like last year between July 7th, 2025 and November 7th, 2025. I don't know about you, but for me, that time period felt like I could finally breathe. Uranus is in its fall in Taurus, and it's not happy there. So Uranus rules Aquarius, an air sign. So Gemini is also an air sign, and it's more up for different adventures and shaking things up, which is exactly what Uranus wants to do. We say that Uranus represents chaos. I would say that Gemini is definitely the mischief makers and the little tricksters. So anyways, after the last 8 years, many people are definitely nervous about what Uranus and Gemini is going to bring. And I think that's totally fair. Every transit is going to have its good and its difficult. And Uranus and Taurus was absolutely no cakewalk for me. I look back at the last 8 years and I honestly often wonder how I got through them. But if July to November of 2025 was our preview, I'm definitely excited to see what the next 8 years are going to bring to us with Uranus and Gemini. So this transit is going to last from April 25th, 2026 until August 3rd, 2032. It will then move into Cancer, and then it will retrograde back into Gemini from December 11th, 2032 until May 22nd, 2033. So that's great. The next transit that we are looking at is Pallas Athena enters Aries, and that happened on Sunday, April 26th. And we are looking at the strategic warrioress entering the sign of the Ram, which is ruled by Mars, the god of war. She will be answering to Mars as he rules in Aries, and he is in the sign of his rulership. So we have the warrior and the warrioress together in the sign of war. Things are going to get interesting. Hopefully they get more strategic. Pallas Athena, when she was in Pisces, it wasn't exactly clear what the strategy was. A war was started that didn't really seem to have a lot of clear strategy. So maybe now that our warrioress has arrived on the scene in Aries with all of the other planets in Aries, we will start to see some strategy working towards these new structures and dreams that are occurring in the Aries section of the zodiac. And since it's been quite some time since I've done one of these updates, I think it's probably fair for me to say that right now we have an abundance of planets in Aries. We have Chiron, the wounded healer, Eris, the goddess of discord. Both of them have been there for a long time, and they're going to be there for a long time. We have Mercury, we have Mars, we have Saturn, we have Neptune, now we have Pallas Athena. Venus and the Sun were there, they have both moved on, but that's part of why things have felt so warlike, because that's just where we are. We are in a fire initiating energy. A spark can light and a wildfire can come out of nowhere. And that's what we're in. We have an abundance of planets in Aries. I tried to find the dates for when Pallas Athena is going to be in Aries, but my ephemeris only goes through the end of this year. So I've got to pick up a new one. But what I'm seeing is that Pallas Athena is actually going to be in Aries all year. She's going to be there for the rest of the year, which is really strange because she normally only spends 3 to 4 months in a sign, but she retrogrades while she is in Aries. So more on that in a future week, in a future episode. It looks like she goes retrograde in August at 22 degrees Aries. So she almost makes it all the way through. There's 29 degrees in each zodiac sign. Or 30 actually. So she makes it up to 22 and then starts to go backwards. And she is retrograde for a few months and goes direct in early December 1st, it looks like. November 30th, excuse me. So yeah, we'll see. I'll be sure to update that on the next week's podcast. From there, we have Venus and Gemini sextile Neptune in Aries. So this is hopefully a very positive energy. We look at sextiles as positive working energies, and this happens on Sunday the 26th, but you'll have a few days to work with it. And so Venus is the goddess of love, and she is in the sign of Gemini, again, the twins. She is happy here. She is lighthearted. She's kind of sparkly and fun. She is zipping through Gemini too. She's moving pretty quickly here. We won't see a Venus retrograde in Gemini. And then we have Neptune in Aries. So Neptune represents our dreams and delusions. And Aries, again, is the ram who represents, initiating spring, but it can also be that aggression factor. So what I'm hoping, though, for all of us is that Neptune in Aries is a chance for us to clarify what our dreams are for what we want to grow, what we want to begin. Who do we want to be in this next chapter of our life? Because the part of all of these planets being in Aries is it's really giving us a great opportunity to start anew in whatever area that is of your life. So I know for me, it's falling in my 4th house of family and home and my 5th house of creation and children. So this is what we are doing. So when we look at how can Venus and Gemini, who is feeling pretty good and pretty chatty, how can she work with Neptune in Aries? So I think it's a great opportunity to talk about your dreams. And not only talk about them, but take action on them. Don't worry about what other people are going to say. I think there's a quote from Big Magic, Elizabeth Gilbert, that says, people in their 70s don't care what other people think because they know that nobody's actually watching them. And we should all embrace that because nobody's actually really watching you and what you're doing with your life, even though you think they are. So get out there, talk about your dreams, take action on those dreams. Don't just talk about it, go do it. So, and me doing this video is a great example of a way to do that. Just make progress, not perfection, because you're going to have plenty of more aspects where Venus aspects Neptune and Aries over the next year to fine-tune how your love and values are interacting with that dream. Okay, we have a big day on the 26th. We have 2 more aspects to cover. The next one is Mercury in Aries squares Jupiter in Cancer. So Mercury is the messenger of the gods. He's in Aries. Jupiter the god of abundance and luck, is in Cancer, the sign of the crab. And Jupiter is exalted in Cancer, which is actually really interesting to me because it's actually quincunx, its rulership in Sagittarius. More on that at another time. And they are in a square aspect to one another, so 90 degrees. When we think about 90 degrees, we're thinking about we need to turn a corner. Like, there's a corner that we need to go around. And what do you do when you are walking down the street and you're like, oh, I need to make a left or a right to go down this road? You're first making a decision. I am going to turn left or I am going to turn right. And then you are taking the action of actually turning the corner. So Mercury, communication, intelligence, messenger of the gods, squares Jupiter in Cancer. You know, I'm going to think about this as, what are you trying to expand so that you can feel more at home with yourself? And the reason why I say that is because Cancer is the sign of the home. And if Jupiter is there, Jupiter is saying, hey, let's expand into this feeling of being at home, of having comfort, of being nurtured, because you're worthy of that. And with everything else going on in the sky, this is a really beautiful placement that we can enjoy. And so I think Mercury in Aries is asking you to speak up for what those needs are that help you better nurture yourself and feel more comfortable. And it may be at your home environment, but it could be at your work environment. How can you feel more at home at work? How can you feel more at home in the relationships that you have? How can you feel more at home in the community you're a part of? This is a great time to make the decision to speak, but then actually say what's on your mind. Mercury is in Aries, so that means that we're looking at a much more direct Mercury. He can be aggressive because he is answering to the Mars in Aries. But this is one of those things where, you know, I would encourage you to speak clearly. You know, you can pull emotion out of it, but speak up for yourself. You know, I've something I say is, you know, I'm going to be direct and I'm going to be firm and I'm going to be kind. And that's a great way to take care of yourself and express what your needs are. Okay, let's keep going because we have several more aspects to cover. Yesterday we had the moon in Virgo, quincunx, the Aries planets, and Pluto in Aquarius. So the moon was in Virgo and made a uncomfortable adjusting aspect to Neptune, Saturn, and Mars, and Pluto in Aquarius. So if you felt the ouchies yesterday, this is why. The moon represents our emotions. Virgo encourages us to take care of ourselves and take care of things. And again, we just have all of those war planets, plus Pluto in Aquarius, who is like, let's transform by shaking everything up and innovating everything and doing everything differently than we've done it before. So it was just uncomfortable. Thankfully, that was yesterday and it's already passed. So let's move on to today, April 27th. Thankfully, we don't have any major aspects, but we do have the moon in Virgo, sextile Jupiter in Cancer. So let's hone in a little bit more on this moon in Virgo. Virgo is the sign of the Virgin, and you know, I don't necessarily love what that means in our current culture. But I would say what the Virgo is a female energy that has idealistic ideals about how things could be or should be. And she is also willing to live up to many of those standards by being of service to those she cares about or that are in her community. And the Virgo is a very organized sign. They are very detail oriented, and they really help take care of all of the things that the rest of us forget that we need to take care of. So when we think about the moon in Virgo, the moon represents nurturing emotions, the mother. The moon is going to be comforted by order, by taking care of your body, by getting to-do list done, by harvesting what is in the fields. It's truly a sign of service. And the moon in Virgo feels comforted when it can serve others, but is also served by others. That's a very honoring thing for a moon in Virgo to receive. So we've got that sextile energy, which is that positive working energy with Jupiter and Cancer. So I love this because the moon rules Cancer. That means Jupiter is answering to the moon in Virgo. So anything that you can do for yourself, for your home, for your family, that knocks off to-do list items, that tidies spaces, that, cleans up the garden and gets it ready for planting, all of those things are going to feel very good for the moon in Virgo. And it's a great way to work with it. We also have a long void moon today from 7:11 in the morning all the way until 5:02 a.m. Eastern on Tuesday. And long void moons mean that the moon isn't working, and neither should you. This year we're going to have a lot of long void moons. It's just the way the planets are set up in the signs in the early degrees. And it's not a time to initiate new things. So like working on this video, I actually started working on this during a non-void moon last week where we had lots of long void moons. That's part of why I'm behind. But you can continue working on things that you started in a non-void moon. So I'm recording this during a non-void moon. I'll probably upload it during a void moon. It's probably not going to get a lot of views. I may not even be able to upload it. It may have tech issues. We'll just see. But so yeah, anyways, if you want something to happen, if you want plans to go through, don't do it until at least 5:03 a.m. on Tuesday. But I will tell you, you can use this to your advantage. So like if you have a work meeting that you know you have to schedule, but you don't actually want it to work out, schedule it during the void moon because it's not going to work out. Or if somebody has told you to buy something that you don't want and know like it's not the right thing, buy it during a void moon. That way they have to return it because it's not going to work out. So also don't buy important things during a void moon. I will say I bought some reverse osmosis filters for my water filtration system today, but it's the third or fourth time I'm buying these filters. So I feel okay doing it because I know like, hey, this is the same product I've ordered for 6 years in a row. Like it should be fine, but I'm also expecting like it may arrive damaged and I can't do it, or they send me the wrong one. We'll see. It's almost like a mini Mercury retrograde, but it's not. Okay. So let's look at Wednesday, April 28th. And on that day, Venus in Gemini is going to trine Pluto in Aquarius. So we talked about how Venus is happy, she's chatty. Pluto is transforming through the unexpected. Definitely in the community, we've had a lot of shocking things happen since Pluto entered Aquarius. And that's part of what it's supposed to do there. But they are in a trine aspect, and trines are flowing energies. It is easy to let a trine pass you by. And you know, I let a lot of trines pass me by. You know, I'm not as motivated to work with a trine, but I do find that they are almost like a continuation of a sextile. So like maybe you started working on something, a trine kind of gives you the second set of wind in your sails to get it done. So if there is something that you've been working on to transform in the community, or a unique idea that you have, it's a great time to talk about it. Talk about your passions, talk about your love, talk about how those things have transformed you. And that's a great way to work with the energy. Okay. Next up, we have the moon in Libra, trine Uranus and Venus in Gemini, and Pluto in Aquarius. That's a lot. So let's break this down a little bit. The moon in Libra is making a trine to both Uranus and Venus in Gemini. The moon is also making another trine to Pluto in Aquarius. Ironically, that means that there are going to be a bunch of planets in Aries in the middle of this. We have a kite. I didn't even realize that when I was putting this together. But we have a kite formation. Let me pull. Seek. I'm just pulling the chart for the 28th. Planetary positions, and let's go. Wait, did I say the 28th? I'm really good at this. Hot dog, we do. Okay. So yeah, we have a kite formation with this. So the moon in Libra, trine Pluto in Aquarius, trine Venus and Uranus in Gemini, and the Venus and the moon is opposite Neptune and Saturn in Aries. So this ties to the dream. Let's talk about the moon in Libra really quick. So Libra is the sign of the scales, and it is a sign of justice. Libra is an air sign, and it is ruled by Venus. And so, you know, it wants love and equality for all, equanimity for all. And Libra, a lot of people say Libra is about balance. I say that Libra is about balance. And you know, when I meet somebody with a moon in Libra, I know that they feel comforted when things are balanced in their life, when there is a stride that is easy for them to maintain. They appreciate beauty. They definitely appreciate nice scents, you know. There's a certain, I feel like Venus and Taurus is like the earthy beauty, and I feel like the Venus Libra is more of a like shopping mall beauty. Like you see them coming, they've got like cashmere and they smell wonderful, and they look beautiful and just have an incredible glow, and it's like, whoa, you are glitzy. I have a friend who is a Libra, and man, when I see her every time, I'm like, you are just soft pink. Like, and she's not even wearing pink, but she just, I don't know, looks like a soft pink cloud. It's wonderful. So the moon in Libra is very comforted and nurtured by those things, and, you know, nurtures in that way. So with the trine, you know, we've got a working energy to communicate the changes, that communicate our values in Gemini. And then we also have that opportunity to shake things up with Pluto and Aquarius and transform whatever it is that we are working on in the community to be supported by our emotions. When we look at that kite, that's kind of the release point. So all of this has to do with that big dream that we're working on restructuring for ourselves. You know, I think about Saturn and Aries as like burning the structures. So when Saturn was in Pisces, we were really looking at dissolving the structures. And we did that. And now this is kind of like the cleanup crew of like, great, we dissolved the structures, but some still remain. So now we've got to burn them down. And we're really going to start rebuilding once Saturn gets into Taurus. But by burning things, you know, burning the rubble, clearing things out, we can then begin to have a clearer idea of what is this structure actually going to look like. You know, we can put pen to paper and actually make drafts. So, and Neptune, again, I mean, we've talked about Neptune in Aries. So again, just looking at that dream of what do we want really for the next 30 years, 74 years if you're tracking the Neptune cycle. I'm looking at Saturn though. And how can we build that? And that's going to be what the kite is heading to. And so I really look at this as like the balanced emotional buy-in. There we go. All of that to say, we are looking at the balanced emotional buy-in of our big, beautiful dream that we are working on. Okay. I did have it. Moon opposed Neptune and Saturn. I just didn't catch that it was a kite. That's okay. And that was for Tuesday, April 28th. Excuse me, earlier, I think I said it was Wednesday, April 28th. So now we're looking at April 29th, 2026, which is Wednesday. And on that day, we have the Sun in Taurus, semi-sextile Saturn in Aries. So semi-sextiles are adjusting aspects. They happen after the conjunction. So a conjunction is a profound influence where two planets are at the same degree of the zodiac and they are making impressions upon one another. They're imprinting upon one another what the story is for their next cycle. When we look at the Sun conjuncting another planet, we're looking at the 1-year plan of how are we going to bring life, vitality, and shine to that planet over the next year in that sign. The semi-sextile shows how the faster moving planet, in this case the Sun, has gathered a little bit more information from that initial intention. And they're coming back and saying, hey Saturn, we need to adjust. I found this out. It's not what we were expecting. Or it was what we were expecting, and there's another layer to it, or we're missing something. Something from that Sun conjunct Saturn in Aries that happened in March, is getting an adjustment. So roll with it. Listen for it. You're probably going to feel it more than you will hear about it. And the reason why I say that is because the Sun is in Taurus, and Taurus is a very tactile sign, being an earth sign. So, you know, you might see it in the landscape before you hear about it from another. Okay. The next one that we have is the Moon in Libra opposes Mars in Aries. This one feels ouchy. And if you are a Libra, I just want to say I am so sorry. You had a lot of going on over the previous several years when you had the South Node in Libra. And now you've got all of these planets in Aries opposing you. So, I hope you're taking care and staying true to your focus, but also focusing on you. You can argue any side of any argument, and I think that this is really a time to discover what it is that you believe, Libra. With the moon in Libra opposite Mars, this is going to feel ouchy because Mars is in his rulership. He is going to dominate this aspect. He is going to call out what doesn't feel comfortable, what hurts, what is ouchy. That's not a bad thing. Sometimes we need things called out so that we can focus on how to improve it. And when we can improve it, we can improve our balance. So use this opportunity to take the opposition to transform for your own betterment. Welcome to Bobby. She is going to join us for a little bit. I think she's hoping for some cuddles. Bubbles. Okay. All right. So that is Wednesday the 29th. We are now looking at Thursday, April 30th. We have another long void moon. No other aspects for this day that I'm going to cover. The moon is going to oppose Mercury. So the moon in Libra oppose Mercury in Aries. Words will be said. They will hurt. And then the moon is going to go void. That happens at 4:51 in the morning. So hopefully we'll all just be asleep, but pay attention to the news that morning. And it will be void until 3:01 p.m. Eastern on Thursday. What I want you to pay attention to is that it's not going to feel good. This is going to be a sensitive day. And so I want you to build things in that feel good for yourself, because the moon is in what we call the Via Combusta, or the path of fire. And that is a set of fixed planets from 15 Libra to 15 Scorpio that they're mean. They are not happy planets. They're not happy stars. They're mean. That's why we call it the path of fire. And so when the moon goes through there, it is more sensitive because it's getting hit on all of these fixed stars. Once it enters Scorpio at 3:01 p.m., it's going to quincunx Uranus in Gemini and Neptune in Aries. This is also going to hurt because we've got the moon in Scorpio, who is in that Via Combusta in a quincunx. A quincunx is a adjusting aspect. It doesn't feel good. That's why, Uranus being in Taurus the last 8 years didn't feel very good for Heather, because I was constantly having to adjust everything about my life. So we're being asked to adjust what we are innovating, and we are going to be asked to adjust our dream. Just observe what comes up, and be careful with yourself. Be careful with others. If you are a magician or a witch and you have the capability to work with the Scorpio energy in a way that is more positive, go for it. If that's not in your wheelhouse, that's okay. It's not in mine. Just know that, Scorpio does take us to the depths so that we can transform and find our own magic. So maybe today is a day to look at the magic within you and honor it and love it and play with it. Because we all have that Scorpio part of our chart, and that is where our magic happens. All right. Let's see here. We get to May 1st, which I believe is Friday, May 1st. And first up, we have the moon square Pluto. The moon in Scorpio square Pluto in Aquarius. So the moon in Scorpio, let's talk about Scorpio really quick. We kind of just covered it, but I want to go back to it a little bit more. Scorpio is a water sign, and it is a fixed sign. It is represented by the scorpion. And the scorpion is teeny tiny. It's like an inch big. And it can kind of lurk around and sting you in the heel when you're not looking. And then, you know, you scream and ow, it hurts. You know, I've not had a scorpion sting, thankfully, but, you know, some of them can be kind of lethal. It makes Scorpio sound really bad, doesn't it? Scorpio is definitely the mysterious sign of the zodiac. They don't want to be seen. Scorpions don't want to be seen. If they are seen and they sting, it's because they are out in the open and they are exposed, and it is not what they want. But Scorpio does, again, it represents the depths of us that are hard for other parts of ourselves to acknowledge. And again, it's truly the magic of who you are. So, when the moon is in Scorpio, the moon is comforted by being shrouded and being able to be in its own little shell and be in its own space, to be able to dabble in those magical qualities that, you know, maybe they're very selective about who they share them with or where they share them. You know, it's a very tender placement. With its square Pluto in Aquarius, we are being asked to turn that corner, take the action, make a decision. So be careful with yourself this day and those around you, because we're still figuring out Pluto and Aquarius. I don't think we still fully know what it means, other than we're transforming the community, and it has felt really rough the last year and a half. 2 years with this transit. So with the moon there coming and squaring it, this is a continued story. Just think about it like that. This is a continued story. This is an aspect that happens every single month, that has been happening every single month ever since Pluto went into Aquarius, back in, when was that? 2025, 2024. It was there both times. This is a continuation, and it's going to keep happening. Like, it's going to happen for the next 18 years. Like, it's going to happen 12 times a year for the next 18 years. So just know, like, I know I say make a decision and turn a corner, make a decision and take action. It's okay if you just gather information on this one. It's okay because that in itself is making a decision and taking action. Gathering information is taking action. Okay. Oh my gosh. Next up, we're going to have the full moon in Scorpio. I'm going to make a separate video on this. And that is going to harken back to the new moon in Scorpio that happened back in 2024. Yep. The new moon in 2024 in Scorpio. So hold on, you know, it's a big day. Emotions are going to be high. We've got, you know, the moon is going to be answering to Mars in Aries. This is a war moon. So again, stay tuned. I will have a video on that full moon specifically that you can look at and, you know, kind of make better decisions from there. Okay. Next up, we have Venus and Gemini sextile Saturn in Aries. So if you remember earlier this week, we had Venus and Gemini sextile Neptune in Aries. And we were talking about communicating the dream, working with the dream by talking about it. So we're going to talk about it, and we're probably going to get some feedback. You'll remember, I told you, don't worry about what anybody says. But you might get some good nuggets. You might get some good ideas. You might get some inspiration. You might get some constructive feedback that you didn't want, but you are now realizing it was right. So This is where Venus and Gemini sextile Saturn and Aries comes in. That information is coming in. Now you can take action to restructure, to choose what you're going to burn next. We're under a burn ban where I live right now because we've been on a drought, and I don't think that's going to be changing anytime soon. But one of the things that I'm hoping to do is to do a controlled burn of a very small piece of my property to encourage growth of native plants. That's kind of what we're doing with Saturn and Aries, is we're selecting what we're burning. So, you know, I think what you'll do is you'll end up getting information about what you need to burn in order to make sure it's more aligned with your values. Okay. So, burn down what feels good, baby. Don't go light a fire. There's so much of us in drought right now. Light a candle if you need to. Okay. And then on Saturday, May 2nd, 2026, we have Mercury, the messenger of the gods, entering Taurus, the sign of the bull. Taurus is a fixed earth sign. Taurus is a sign that I love. I've had to learn to love it. My North Node is in Taurus, so I've definitely spent a lot of time learning about Taurus and embracing that side of myself. But Taurus, while Aries initiates things, Taurus is making the investment. Hey, Buttons. Taurus is doing the groundwork. Taurus is getting in, plowing the fields, planting the seeds. Like, you know, Aries picked out the seeds, I think, and Taurus is like, okay, I'm going to nurture them. So with Mercury entering Taurus, that should calm down some of the war aspects that we're feeling, since Mercury is a personal planet, and our speech should become less aggressive and hopefully more grounded. With that said, Mercury in Taurus doesn't always communicate with words. I find that Mercury in Taurus communicates through action. And Mercury in Taurus is reliable in the actions that they take. And a Mercury Taurus will be consistent in the actions they take. So it is a very grounding sign for Mercury. So just stay tuned to see how communication changes, see how headlines change, and wherever that is in your chart, that's probably what you need to be working on communicating during that transit. Actually, while we're here, let me look up how long Mercury is going to be in Taurus. Okay. Yep, so Mercury will be in Taurus from May 2nd until June 1st when it enters Gemini, the sign of its rulership. So there we are for the week of April 26th to May 2nd. I will have another video for you this week to talk about the full moon in Scorpio and how you can better work with that energy. Thank you for bearing with me as I am going for progress, not perfection. And I hope that if you did end up watching this video, that you gained something useful from it that you can apply to your week. If you have any questions, please drop them in the comments. Be sure to like and subscribe. And if you were inspired by this, please share it with a friend. That way my cute little YouTube channel can grow. Wishing you all of the love and blessings this week on your journey to who you are truly becoming.